Laughter echoed through the Zarantine Alliance Assembly Hall as the primitive human warship designs flashed on the huge holographic display, the guffaws only growing louder at the sight of the patchwork human flagship, Retribution, an ugly hodgepodge of exposed pipes, uneven armor plating, and comically small weapons ports. In his cavernous office overlooking the ruined capital, Zarantine diplomat Talon slumped in a chair, head cradled in long-fingered hands as he relived that fateful assembly. His colleague Ixal paced, wringing his hands. "I can't believe we actually laughed at the humans' so-called warships. We mocked their primitive designs and paltry armaments. We called their flagship cute," Ixal said. "It looked like it was held together by sealing wax and prayers." Talon sighed heavily. "In our arrogance, we assumed that just because we were the oldest, most technologically advanced race, that automatically meant we were superior to everyone else, especially the newcomer humans." Ixal nodded vigorously. "Exactly. When they applied to join the Galactic Alliance and we saw their entry fleet, I actually guffawed. I thought it was some kind of joke. Ship designs a century out of date, armaments that couldn't even scratch our weakest patrol frigate's paint." Ixal grimaced. "And that eyesore Dreadought of theirs. I actually pointed and laughed when the Alliance inspectors were poking around inside it, mocking how primitive and cramped it was. I wonder if Supreme Commander Stephen Miller heard me that day." Talon shivered and looked out the window at the smoking ruins dotting the once pristine cityscape. "I think he did, Ixal. And I think we're paying the price now for our hubris. The humans warned us after we rejected their alliance application. They said we'd regret it." Talon swallowed, throat dry. "Well, now we're regretting it, but it's too late. Half our colonies are ash, our fleet is crippled. If the humans press their attack, it's over for our empire, over for our entire species." Ixal flopped into a chair across from Talon, a haunted look in his eyes. "Remember when that ragtag pirate fleet hit the Alliance summit? We just stood there with our jaws on the floor while their junker ships cut through our defensive line like a hot knife through butter." Talon nodded, his expression grim. "I remember. Our top-of-the-line warships from a dozen proud races turned into blazing scrap heaps by a bunch of space trash in minutes. What a disgrace." Leaning in, Ixal dropped his voice low, and right when it looked like it was all over, when those pirates were seconds away from taking the Alliance leaders hostage, that's the moment the human fleet warped in right on their heads. Talon's eyes went wide as the memory came flooding back. Never seen anything like it. One second the pirates were crowing about their big win, and the next the human ships were just there. No warp flash, no radiation burst, nothing. Like they teleported out of nowhere. Ixal bobbed his head, talking fast. "And the Retribution. Man, when I first saw that ugly beast show up, I thought it had to be a prank. That freak patchwork hull, guns that looked like they got welded on by a drunk. But there it went, flying right down the pirates' throats. Every gun port lit up like a supernova. I never saw a Dreadnought move like that fast, shooting that straight." A shiver ran through Talon. That ship was like a living thing. The way it moved, it was like it could read the pirates' minds, knew what they'd do before they did it, and its guns never missed. Gives me chills just thinking about it. Talon lets out a low whistle. I'll never forget the sight of those Krillian ships just disintegrating, like they were made of sand, and someone had turned a hose on them. It was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Ixal nods, his expression distant. And then, as quickly as they'd arrived, the humans were gone again. They didn't stick around to claim territory or demand concessions. They just left, like they hadn't just single-handedly averted a galactic catastrophe. Talon shakes his head in disbelief. I heard rumors that the Zorgans tried to get their hands on that human weapon tech afterwards, sent delegations to Earth, offered them all kinds of trade deals and alliances. Ixal snorts. Yeah, and the humans turned them down flat, said their weapons were not for sale or trade to anyone under any circumstances. Can you imagine, having that kind of power and not using it for your own gain? Talon leans forward, his voice low. You know what I think? I think the humans are playing a different game than the rest of us. They don't want to conquer or dominate. They just want to keep the peace, keep things stable. Ixal frowns thoughtfully. But why? What do they get out of it? Talon spreads his hands. That's the trillion credit question, isn't it? Maybe they're just altruistic, maybe they feel responsible since they're the newest kids on the Galactic block. Or maybe... He pauses, his eyes narrowing. Maybe they know something we don't. Something about what's really out there in the depths of uncharted space. Ixal feels a chill run down his spine at Talon's words. He opens his mouth to reply, but before he can speak, a sudden commotion outside draws their attention. Shouts, the pounding of feet, a rising cacophony of panic. Talon is on his feet in an instant, Ixal right behind him as they rush to the window. Down in the streets below, a tide of people are running, fleeing from something unseen. Above them, the sky begins to darken, an unnatural shadow falling over the city. Ixal feels his heart seize in his chest as realization dawns. The Krillians, or whatever is left of them, have come for their revenge, and this time there will be no miraculous human intervention to save them. This time they are on their own. Talon shakes his head in awe. The sheer audacity of it, to land right under the enemy's nose and build a war machine factory right there on the battlefield. I still can't believe they pulled it off. Ixal nods. And the efficiency. To go from landing to a fully operational factory churning out legions of combat drones in just a week. It's unheard of. The logistics alone must have been a nightmare. But they did it. And not just that, the design of the factory itself was inspired. Building it underground, hidden from view, with the capability to deploy its forces directly to the surface. Genius. Talon strokes his chin thoughtfully. And then there's the drones themselves, Ixal continues. Adaptable, versatile, able to swarm and overwhelm the enemy through sheer numbers. The Zorgons never stood a chance. It was like watching a Gorgaxian army ant colony in action, Talon muses. The way they coordinated, the way they adapted to each new challenge the Zorgons threw at them. Each drone seemed to know instinctively what to do. Yeah, and they could take a beating too, Ixal adds. I saw footage of Zorgon heavy artillery raining fire on their positions, the kind of bombardment that would reduce any of our units to molten slag. But the drones, they just kept coming, crawling over their fallen comrades to get at the enemy. It was chilling. Talon nods solemnly. And that's the thing about the humans. They don't just think outside the box, they operate in a completely different dimension. They don't adhere to any of the conventional rules of warfare. Which is what makes them so damn terrifying, Ixal concludes. You can't predict what they'll do next because they're always coming up with new strategies, new technologies, always evolving. Talon leans back in his chair, a faraway look in his eyes. You know, after Halcyon Prime, I thought maybe the Zorgons would finally learn their lesson, that they'd think twice before messing with the humans again. Talon looks out the window again, his expression somber. The ruined city stretches before him, a testament to human might and Zarantine folly. And now, here we are. The humans, the ones we laughed at, the ones we dismissed, they're the ones calling the shots. Ixal nods, his voice bitter. We thought we were the masters of the galaxy. We thought we could push them around, make them dance to our tune. He clenches his fists, his knuckles paling. But we were wrong, so very wrong. Talon sighs, the weight of their situation pressing down on him. I heard a rumor, you know, about why the humans are doing this, why they're taking over. Ixal looks up, curiosity flickering in his eyes despite their grim circumstances. What did you hear? Talon leans in, his voice barely above a whisper, as if the very walls might be listening. They say that when we first met the humans, when we laughed at their ships and their technology, we didn't just wound their pride, we scared them. Ixal frowns, confusion etching lines across his brow. Scared them? How? Talon's eyes are haunted, distant, as if seeing something beyond the confines of the room. Think about it. They were new to the galactic stage, just taking their first steps into the wider universe. And what did they find? A galaxy full of advanced races, with technology and weapons far beyond their own. He shakes his head. They realized that they were vulnerable, that any one of us could wipe them out if we chose to. Ixal's eyes widen as the pieces fall into place, realization dawning like a cold sun. So they decided to make sure that could never happen. They decided to become the biggest threat in the galaxy, so no one could ever threaten them again. Talon nods, his expression grim. And they succeeded. But in doing so, they've become the very thing they feared. They're not just defending themselves anymore. They're conquering, dominating. They're becoming the monsters they once saw in us. Ixal shakes his head, despair etching itself into every line of his face. And the worst part, we have no one to blame but ourselves. We created this situation. We pushed them to this. His voice cracks, a whisper of broken pride. And now we all have to live with the consequences of our arrogance. The two aliens fall silent, each lost in their own grim thoughts. Outside, the hum of human ships patrolling the skies above their broken city serves as a constant reminder of the new order in the galaxy and the steep price of underestimating the once laughable humans. Talon's gaze traces their paths, his mind spinning with the implications of their new reality. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.